Hey folks, welcome back to the AWS Launchpad desk. We are here to talk about a very exciting feature launch that is IAM Access Analyzer. Launched in the identity leadership session back on Monday, it's now been live for 2 days, and joined with me here are 3 members of the service team that helped to launch IAM Access Analyzer. So gentlemen, why don't we go down the line and introduce ourselves?
Hey, this is Ujjwal. I'm the product manager for IAM Access Analyzer.
I'm Andrew Gasik. I'm an applied scientist on the team.
I'm Dan Peebles. I'm an engineer on the team too.
Wonderful, and I'm Nick Walsh. I'm a technical evangelist here at AWS and helping to bring this amazing service to you at home for those of you that can't make it here to reInvent. So there's a lot to talk about with IAM Access Analyzer, and I figured we could get right into it. So right off the bat, what is it from a 50,000-foot view?
So on a high level, IAM Access Analyzer is an IAM capability. It's a first of its kind in that it uses automated reasoning, which is like mathematical analysis, and it analyzes your resource policies and provides findings essentially for resources that are shared outside your account with either a different account or publicly. And it's free. So I would strongly urge any customer to go and give it a shot and try it.
If it not costing anything isn't enough of a reason to take a look at it, I'm sure if you stick around for the rest of the session, you will have many reasons to do so. So IAM Access Analyzer, again, it's going to perform some sort of understanding around your different resource policies and access patterns. What resources does it support now at launch?
At launch, we support S3 buckets, IAM roles, KMS keys, SQS queues, Lambda functions, and Lambda layers.
All right, so a good number of events, or a good number of compatibilities. So broadly, we understand that it's going to analyze these permissions that we have, but can we go over what IAM is for people who don't interact with it very deeply or very often?
So on a very high level, IAM is a platform service that AWS offers, and it essentially helps customers decide who has access to what in their account. The who in this case could be their employees or applications that they run, and the what could be AWS services or resources. And it essentially allows you to do so through roles that your applications or employees could assume, and allows you to define policies, which basically mean the permissions that they have once they have access to the account.
Great, and I know this is something that people will be able to see once we get into the demo, but is this something that's automatically enabled in their account, or do they have to turn it on or opt into it?
So, you need to turn it on. There's an element of deciding what you want to see and what you don't want to see, so we didn't want to just turn it on by default, but it is very easy to turn on.
Wonderful, and again, folks will be able to see that in the demo that we'll be doing in just a little bit. But we mentioned this lets teams be proactive. How does this compare to sort of reactive methodologies that we may be using for permissions analysis in the past or in the status quo?
Yeah, so as we said, it uses automated reasoning, which is a formal technique that does a full sort of logical exploration of what the policy grants and what the configuration grants, as opposed to other techniques like fuzzing and stuff, which are trying random examples. So we are exploring the entire infinite state space of the policies to understand what is actually possible from outside your account. And this both enables us to be complete and to actually have high confidence in our findings, as well as giving us the agility because it's a solid logical backing for the project. So as new access paths emerge and new features from services, we can add those on very easily without worrying about the soundness of our analysis.
So when I hear automated reasoning, I've heard quantum computing, blockchain, a lot of exciting words. Does this in any way leverage machine learning? How does automated reasoning work? Do we have a little bit of a more look under the hood there?
Yeah, sure. The automated reasoning is fairly different from ML, but a lot of people sort of lump them under the same heading of AI. But automated reasoning is doing logical analysis of the ands and the ors and the nots, and like trying to break down the logic to figure out what is actually possible and what isn't. Whereas machine learning is doing a lot of sort of big data analysis, like finding perfect separation points between large data sets. And so we're not doing machine learning or statistics in that sense. We're actually doing sort of a formal logical analysis of the thing.
Yeah, and in mathematical terms, the word formal has a very particular meaning, and so I guess for those that, you mentioned before, this isn't sort of performing random tests and trying to poke at your policies to see where it falls apart. It's actually trying to understand the relationships between the different access that you're granting different users, different services, and identifying proactively before that could either A, be implemented, or B, have been stress tested, let's say.
Yeah.
Awesome, so partners have integrated IAM Access Analyzer. I know there are a few examples, but what are some use cases that they've been able to find with using this in the wild?
Yeah, so we actually have 11 partners that have integrated with us at launch. 10 of those are technical implementations, and we have a consulting partner, which is Deloitte. And it's so interesting because we've essentially, they've used the same product under the hood and used it for very different use cases like incident reporting or just providing you more inputs into your policies. And each one's like offering a different use case or solving a different use case for your customer, for their customers, but using the same technology under the hood. And yeah, I mean, a lot of them are actually here at reInvent and they have booths. So if you're here at reInvent, you should just definitely go to their booth, ask about what they're doing using Access Analyzer, and yeah, you should check it out.
Wonderful, and I know I might be jumping the gun because we'll see this in a demo, but my first reaction here is, this is really exciting. But how does this come into play when you have multiple accounts in an organization, right? Like, let's say one person isn't, the be-all, end-all for managing all of your IAM access privileges. How does this work at an organization?
Yeah, so today we don't currently have direct integration with organizations, but we pre-announced it. It's coming very soon, and when that happens, when you create an analyzer today, as you'll see in the demo, it gives you a scope of analysis there that tells you where you're analyzing a single account, and that means that things inside the account are considered trusted, and things outside the account are flagged. When you create an organizational analyzer after we release the feature, you'll be able to do that in the organizational boundary or an OU boundary within the organization. And so what that means is that possibly counterintuitively, you'll end up with sometimes fewer findings for the same resource at an organization layer, because that's actually considering other accounts and resources within the organization as trusted. And so on an individual and account basis, it looks like an outsider, but on an OU basis, it might be an insider. So it's going to be very cool.
Interesting. Yeah, this sounds like the type of thing that people may have gone and tried to define manually and create the search space. But as you mentioned, again, in this infinite search space and exploding complexity where you have a large number of people at an organization, a large number of policies and permissions across, it just becomes honestly impossible to do manually at a certain point. So
and we're very also concerned about signal-to-noise ratio. We don't want to alarm people about things which are nonsense.
Definitely. And again, I think the fact that this is free makes it very easy for people to dip their toes in and get started with trying it. But without further ado, I think it would be really valuable if we could show the folks at home a little bit about what IAM Access Analyzer looks like. Do you think we could do that?
Yeah, let's do a demo.
Great.
All right, so do they switch here?
Yeah, so just go full screen on that, and we should be good to go.
Okay.
While we're getting that set up, anyone in chat, please, if you have questions for any of the people up here on the desk, get those in on Twitch chat. We'd love to get those answered. We're about to go into a demo for a few minutes, but if there's anything along the way that you see that's interesting, shout it out. Love to talk a little bit more about it.
So before the demo, we just wanted to show who our launch partners are. So they're there on the screen. A bunch of them, as I mentioned, are around in the booth. So I just wanted to give them a quick shout out for like the partners to come forward and integrate and help us solve different customer use cases. And
as you said, many of those customers and partners for launch are here at the reInvent Expo. So if you're here, go check them out and talk a little bit about it.
Yeah.
But any chance we'll get to go into the management console now?
Yeah.
Take a look at it.
Yeah, I just need to mirror my screen to the.
No worries.
It says it's mirroring. So is it? I don't see
I saw it briefly on there, but then it went away.
Okay.
We can get switched over to the laptop demo. While we're waiting for that to happen, again, a reminder, we are actually, through the course of our reInvent stream, partnering with 3 Square Food Bank, an amazing local charity here. You can use !donate in the chat to be able to get the link to donate for that cause. But it looks like we have the demo up and running, so let's go switch over to that.
Yeah, so first things first, you can find Access Analyzer in the IAM console. So when you go in here, on the left-hand side, you see Access Reports, and right under that is Access Analyzer. So let's go in there. And it's one-click enablement. You just create an analyzer for your account. You can set tags if you want, but we're going to dive straight in. And what it's doing now in the background is it's scanning those resources I talked about, the KMS keys, the S3 buckets, IAM roles, and it's figuring out who outside the account has access inside. So now if we refresh this, we should see some findings. Here we can see various roles in my account and who can assume them. But let's look specifically at my S3 buckets. So here I have my S3 buckets, all named after my favorite Minnesota State Fair foods. And let's look at just one of these buckets here, the cheese curds. Let's see. So there's 3 findings for this bucket. So 3 broad categories of access from outside of my account inside. Just looking at this list, I can see that 2 of these, this is, say, my on-prem data center that has read and write access. And this is my security audit role that has list access. So if I'm comfortable with those findings, I can archive them.
So to clarify here, with respect to these findings, are these simply the IAM roles that have access to those resources in your account, or is it also people or services that have assumed those roles and tried to or have the ability to access them?
So it's looking at who has direct access from the resource policy.
Okay.
So if you call out a role, it'll be the role. If you call out a service principal, it'll be service principal. So this other finding here that I haven't archived, this one says that this VPC has write, permissions, and tagging access, which seems a little broad. So by clicking here, we can look deeper. And here we see the full list of access that it allows. There's a lot of things here we probably don't want them to be able to perform. So we can go to the S3 console to fix this. Here in the S3 console, we can go to the bucket policy. And we can see that this VPC has permission to perform put star. And we're going to scope that down to just allow put object. And we'll save the policy. And Access Analyzer is constantly running, so this finding will be updated in about 15 minutes if we wait. But we can also click a button to rescan immediately. And when we do this, we see the findings resolved. And
awesome.
By going back, we can see that we have a new finding in its place that says that the VPC just has write access. And if we look in detail, we can see it's just put object like we expect. So we're comfortable with that. We can archive that finding. So that's the general workflow. It's all about trying to get to 0 findings, because when you have 0 active findings, that means every finding has either been acknowledged as something you intend, or you've gone and fixed it. And you can always go and look at the findings that are archived, or the ones that you've resolved, if you want auditing or visibility. And I want to show one other thing here, which is the Amazon S3 console has an Access Analyzer integration. So it's on the left-hand navigation. And this will show you an overview of your S3 buckets and a summary of what access is allowed to them. So here we can see I have a deep-fried candy bar on a stick bucket that's publicly accessible. That's probably not good, so I'm going to turn on block public access to fix it. And when I do this, it'll rerun the analysis, and this bucket should disappear from that list. And you can also see down here the buckets that I talked about earlier that I've either archived all the findings or it still has active findings.
I still can't believe this is all free. I think that's one of the things that jumps out at me. I know we talk a lot about how security is priority 0 here at AWS, but I think this is really walking the walk with respect to that. Another thing that really jumps out to me here is, this really takes us all the way across the finish line with respect to not just identifying the trouble policies, but also directly linking you in console to where you can remediate them.
Yeah.
Then, again, removing a step that developers would need to manually go and figure it out on their own.
Yeah, the goal is for this to be accessible to people even if they aren't experts in the policy language.
Wonderful, and so we just went through 1 or 2 quick examples using S3, but again, this workflow where we identify a problem sort of policy, is this experience very similar for S3 buckets, KMS keys, SQS queues, Lambda functions, and Lambda layers?
Yeah, so essentially, as Andrew demonstrated, you can actually go to any of the findings and we give you a direct link to the respective service console. And in this specific example, we used S3, but essentially you could go to the IAM console for roles or the KMS console for keys, and the workflow is pretty similar.
Wow, this is amazing. So next question, you've sold everyone here on using it. It's free, it costs them nothing. Next common question around a launch, is there support for CloudFormation for IAM Access Analyzer?
Yes, there is.
Oh,
we launched with it. You can create the analyzer resource, and you can at the same time create archive rules, which are you can think of almost like an allow list of principles that you are aware of. Maybe your organization has a common audit account. You don't want to hear about it in your findings. You can actually create those in the CloudFormation resource, so you never see those if you don't want to see them.
Wonderful. So I can spin up my stack, I can have that be reproducible, and basically enable IAM Access Analyzer for that stack when it's spun up.
That's right.
That's really great. Again, with CloudFormation, you want your deployments to be as reproducible and in some way atomic as possible, and being able to have IAM Access Analyzer sort of give you that peace of mind that your policies are as you intend them to be, is something that I'd imagine is very valuable to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we have a few minutes left in this session. I think it would be really valuable to dive a little bit more into automated reasoning, because it's kind of the engine that powers a lot of this functionality. We saw there that the analysis is actually really quick.
Yep.
Can we talk a little bit more about how it is so quick, or a little bit of the underlying technology? We mentioned it involves formal logic and some of the math behind that. But what did it look like to build that, or how's it working under the hood?
So what makes it so fast is that we don't look at historical data. We're not going through gigabytes of logs. We just look at the resource policy, and based on that, we figure out what's possible in the future. And that's been a real learning experience for us, because when we first built Zelkova, which is the automated reasoning engine that drives this analysis, it was really good at answering yes or no questions. And so we spent a lot of time trying to figure out what are the right questions to ask. And we realized that wasn't a scalable process, that we needed to automate and figure out what are the questions. And that's what Access Analyzer does. It looks at your policy, it figures out who's in the policy, and based on that, it generates questions for Zelkova. So it sees account 123, and it says, does 123 have write access? Does it have read access? Can it see my bucket or my role?
This reminds me, and this is maybe a very vague sort of generalization, it's like those logic puzzles that are, if this, then not that, and you fill it all in, and ultimately there is one solution that satisfies the entire set.
Yeah, it's like essentially we are playing 20 questions with policies. Yeah.
Except instead of 20, it could be 20,000 or 20 million because of the exploding complexity.
Yeah.
Wonderful. We've actually got some more questions in the chat, if you don't mind. Someone in the chat is wondering, when will we be able to have event bridge automation or integration?
So
today?
we actually have that today. So that's available. If you go search for Access Analyzer, you would get events for essentially any finding or a finding status update. So new findings get generated, a finding has a status update from active to archived, or even if a finding gets deleted once it's resolved for 90 days. Everything will be available through event.
Wonderful, and I'm not sure if we know already which services may be coming next, but if you can hint at any, I'm sure folks at home would like that. If not, what way can folks reach out to you to be able to let you know which services they really want this integration for?
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of options. All the standard options apply. IAM forums is a good platform. Reaching out to support or reaching out to their account managers if they have an account team. All the standard channels, people know how to find us, and we'd be really happy to get customer feedback on what to support.
Yeah, I know we talk about this a lot, but it's always worth re-emphasizing. Over 90% of our roadmap for new services and features are driven by customer feedback. So if there's a service you're really passionate about seeing this functionality for, don't sit and wait around. Please, please, please let us know in one way or another, and that helps to bump it up in the priority queue to make sure we're delivering the service that you want to be using. Yeah, everyone in chat's throwing out all the ones that they want to see. We will be sure to note all of those down. So again, thank you for participating.
We do have KMS support. I see a KMS support on there. We do have it already. That's
Wonderful. So we said this actually was launched 2 days ago. It's live. People can use it. They can go right into your IAM console and get started with it. Are there any getting started guides, any documentation you'd recommend?
There's a blog post on the Jeff Barr blog that talks about setting up your analyzer and viewing the findings, how you resolve them, and how you archive them if you're comfortable with those findings.
Yeah, and I actually have that link to the Jeff Barr blog post. I've just thrown that in chat there. And then if you also want a direct console deep link, I have one here. This has US East 1 in the URL, but obviously mix and match as per your choosing.
Yep.
All right, awesome. This is a really amazing feature. I'm glad we got to take the time. Again, 3 members up here from the IAM Access Analyzer service team. Thank you again for coming out. Available now, go check it out. And stick around, everyone else in chat, because we'll be right back with some more exciting content. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.